Okay, we are here in Leipzig with STONED t-shirt with Igor.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
fine.
Okay, so we are doing 20 questions with you. So what means music for you?
uh, Currently everything, because this is what I do for living. This is what I like to talk about, write about. This is what I like listen to about and analyze and work with. So yeah, right now I think 90% of my life is more or less connected with music.
Okay. Best experience playing live?
Oh, actually there were so many, and on this tour as well. I would say Paris, Alhambra on this tour was freaking amazing, and some places that we already know. But each time there are new people coming, and it's always like a new elevating experience. Like yesterday in Vienna, or day before that in Munich, it was just fantastic.
Cool. And the worst one, if you want to say?
Again, luckily not on this tour, but sometimes it just depends on the, I would say, the level of audience being into it, because we're very much feedback driven band, and if the audience is really active and they're giving us this energy, we're giving like tenfold back, and it always goes back and forth, and after the show you're like really pumped up, and this is the best awesome thing the whole day. But sometimes, I mean, it depends on the level of how people enjoy the show. Sometimes they just stand in there,
And then you don't have...
yeah, and you cannot just push them, and you getting weaker and lazier, and that sometimes, I mean, for them it could be all right, and they could, like, I don't know, buy a lot of merch and would be happy and go home, but we would be like, the show was really lame. So yeah.
Yeah, and the most embarrassing situation you have on tour?
On this tour,
Of any tour.
I bought a new guitar actually on this tour, on the second day of tour, and the strings are really new, and they still like need some working on them. So it like gets detuned pretty often, and I used to play a couple of shows on this guitar just to try it on, and it's really funny when the guitar just goes off in the middle of the freaking song, and you just have to and you still need to maintain your cool and be nice and not get really pissed about it. So sorry if anyone noticed that.
Okay, describe your band in less than 5 words.
In less than 5 words, I would say challenging, energetic, amazing live, and upcoming.
Okay. And do you care about politics?
Oh, not really, not at all, because like Ukraine is always in the middle of some crisis or some like conflict situation, and it gets really, into your mind, and you just try to shut it off and just
Go and do?
yeah, exactly. Don't give much attention to it, because in the end of the day, you do what you do the best, and this is the only thing that matters.
Yeah, that's true. So what's better for you, touring or being at home? I guess touring.
Ooh, it depends. Actually, our last album that released a year ago is dedicated to the exhaustion that you have on tour, to disintegration of your personality, to the way that touring, like, influences everything, like your relationship and your life and your head and everything. But honestly, before that tour, I was just sitting at home counting days before I can just jump in the van and play to people, because sitting at home and doing all this boring stuff that I do in the band, like logistics and merchandise and SMM and all this kind of stuff, and answering emails and feeling myself like a freaking office person, not a musician. And I'm like, no, I just want to go out there and play the freaking guitar for people. Come on.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah, this year it was like vice versa, 180. I just wanted to play shows, and I'm so happy to do this right now.
And the worst thing you did, being drunk?
Oh, actually, I'm not big of a drinker. The first time I was drunk, I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah, actually. And I think the funniest part was 3 years ago when we had this long tour with Mustard Sky. There were like 35 shows or something like this. Yeah, and by the end of it, we were pretty. And the pre-last show, I got really drunk with the boyfriend of our promoter, who was like extremely cool guy. He was into hip hop, and we started discussing it, because I used to love hip hop when I was a kid, and I still discovered new artists, and we were like, Kendrick Lamar, yeah, Dr. Dre, yeah, woo, and stuff like that. And we just sort of got really drunk, not noticing that. And I remember just like a little moments of that evening. Like I was throwing a cake into somebody. Yeah, then I was drinking coffee and throwing up, probably because of the coffee, not because of the drink. No. Yeah, so that was probably the most also embarrassing part. Yeah.
And what is the best part of being a musician?
I think the best part is really having new experience every day and seeing the world as it is, because this is again something that is connected to politics and society. When you live in the same place and you see the same people, you just cannot think outside the box, and you're just pretty limited in many things. And when we travel from one country to another, you see so many cultures and so many different people reacting to different stuff, and of course there is a lot of impressions, and sometimes you get a little numb and you try to block them, but at the end of the day you come home like a better person, a richer person. You try to understand people, you learn to take them as they are, and you just basically grow as a person, and you also give them your music. This is amazing.
That's true. And the worst part?
The worst part is probably the regime, the schedules, because you have to travel sometimes 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. You sleep for 3 hours a day. You cannot sleep in the van because it's not really a sleep. Also, it depends like what you eat and how you rest and how well you prepared, how well the clubs are prepared, because sometimes the perfectionism can get better of you and you just want everything to be perfect, but it's never perfect. So yeah, sometimes it's really tough in terms of this kind of schedule and exhaustion. But like this 1 hour out of all 24 hours per day when you're on stage, this is the best hour, and it definitely make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I think so. And the best band and worst band for you?
Band? I don't know. My favorite band is Marillion, because from them I started to understanding that the music is really something important, and it can influence people's lives, and it can change a lot of things, and it's really something that is special and that makes your heart pumping and makes your emotions flow. So yeah, Marillion started it all for me. And the worst band, I don't even know. That's really tough, because I'm really cool and laid down towards other people's tastes. I mean, people could love Imagine Dragons and Chainsmokers and Ed Sheeran and whatever they might like. And if it rocks their boat, I'm fine with it. Whatever, just don't push me into it. Listen to whatever you want. I'm fine with anything. Just let's not be enemies about it, okay? That's it.
And the favorite food and drink?
With a drink, I think I would go with latte macchiato. Actually, something that I'm drinking right now. And warm milk, which is very necessary for the voice, especially on tour. Like I sound a little raspy because we played 12 shows and we have 4 more, and warm milk is something that really helps you. And with food, I really love stuff like spinach and avocado, this greeny, healthy stuff. Because again, when you're on tour, you're not really getting that.
Yeah.
You're just driving past freaking fast food joints and all these hot dogs and a lot of bread, a lot of something really fat and unhealthy. Yeah. So when you see something green, you're like, yeah, give it to me.
Yeah. And then what is the first thing you usually do when you get up in the morning?
I stretch. Actually, I stretch like my back, my spine, and my hands. This is something that I learned from my massage therapist back in Kiev. Okay. I started visiting him last year because of the whole, again, touring thing, because I felt my body telling me that, dude, that's enough. You need to do something with it. Yeah, and he actually showed me a couple of really simple exercises that you can do, on a hotel floor. That's not requiring special,
That's good. So you can do it on tour.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main goal of it. That you do it on tour and you stretch and you feel better and you feel your blood going into different parts of your body, and you don't feel so wrecked and so bad after just having 3 hours of sleep.
Okay. So what's better for you, in a relationship or single?
Oh, currently I'm single, and it's really hard to maintain a relationship because it's really hard to explain to people that I go on tour to play music, not to have a party all the time. Because again, when you're a DIY band and you do everything yourself, you tour managing, your logistics and merchandise and all this stuff, there is no time to like be in like party and all that. And also, I don't think that rock musicians, especially underground ones, really get the kind of attention guys like Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses had back in the day. So
Oh
there
my
are,
God.
as you see, there are no like
It's coming back. This stuff.
luxury orgies.
Yeah.
No like naked girls on the backstage with cocaine in their butts or something like that. Yeah, no, just a couple of tired people waiting to play the show and get some, adrenaline from it. This is like the main drug that we have.
And what's your biggest dream? Your biggest dream, did you reach it or you want more?
Ooh, actually, I had this couple of times when I had this dream, like I want something. And when you get something, you usually get a little disappointed because it happened. Because the journey is more fun than the destination.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always like little steps that I always think about, like we need to get to the point where we get 500 people every day on our shows. And this is what basically happening on this tour, which is extremely fantastic and really awesome. Then the next thing is like touring in the US, which also in plans for the next year.
Okay.
Then we need to do this, then we need to do that. So it's not really romantic. And this is not something that also my friends that are not in music business understand. They usually go like, yeah, don't you dream of playing a Wembley Stadium or something? And I'm already starting thinking about logistics of playing Wembley Stadium and how many tickets you should sell and how many merchandise you should print. So it's like very practical for me. Sometimes I gotta just relax and dream. So for me, dream is more like a destination, like Ziel, like I see it and I go for it.
Yeah, of course. And your favorite place in the world? I guess you visit so many. So.
Yeah. Like speaking of the world, then South America is amazing. It's really beautiful and different. But speaking of Europe, there are some top places that we all really love. First of all is Sarajevo. Sarajevo is really beautiful, and it's not spoiled by the conservative EU yet. So it's like very fresh and very different. We also love Ljubljana, Barcelona, Krakow, Berlin, of course, Prague. So like all these places with their own history and their own special vibe. And I've never been to Iceland yet, and I would love to go. I think it's gonna be on my top list as well.
Cool. And what do you prefer to be, a fish or a bird?
I'd go with a fish.
Okay. And for finishing, what do you think people should listen to your band?
Because I genuinely think that we offer something different than most of the stoner rock bands. We try to sound differently. We try to be more progressive and interesting with our music. And we try to step beyond the limitations of the genre, so a lot of people can listen to it. Actually, in Ukraine, we are a bit like more mainstream rock band.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people know about us that don't know about stoner rock or psychedelic rock or whatever. And I think this is a good sign that people that don't really into guitar heavy music at all, they can listen to us and be like, oh, I like that. I really like that. I would go to the show. And then when you go to the show, we got you. Because I think we're also really good live.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry about that, but
yeah. We can say you're right.
Thank you. So for us, I think the best way is to drag people to our live show and they will be hooked.
Good. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And
Thank you.
can't wait to see you live again.
Same.